And hello everybody, welcome to another video. Today we are going to start painting the Nighthaunt black coach from Games Workshop. A couple of things before we get started. If you hear a bit of a buzzing noise in the background, it's because I have to keep my air conditioner on in this room because it's been about 90 degrees outside for the last 3 weeks or so, and I don't want to die I don't want to die from heat stroke while making this video, so I apologize if you do hear something in the background. That's just the AC going. It's too hot for me to turn it off even for a few minutes to tape these segments. Anyways, let's dive right into this. So first thing you'll see is I already base coated all the brown on here, basically on the entire model. That's getting wood put on it. That's getting wood painted on it. It is a little bright right now. It's actually a lot bright right now, as you can see, but that will change shortly. So what I used as my base coat for the wood is Dubai Brown from Scale Color, from Scale 75. Now we're going to kind of make a homemade wash to accentuate that, to make it a little less less bright. Sorry, trying to do a couple of things. So first thing we're going to use is some glaze medium and Scale Color black leather is what I'm going to use as a wash. That's also going to bring in a nice red into the wood. Should actually add quite a nice look to it. I don't want to make it too bright, obviously, because the black coach being what it is, you want to keep it nice and dark. So we're not going to go over the top with the highlights, I don't think, at least. But then again, we'll see. So while I mix this up, those of you who've watched my build video on this, I did mention that I wasn't sure whether I was going to do this in one video, paint the whole thing in one video, or whether I was going to make multiple episodes of it, since I don't have the best track record with actually keeping up with updates to episodes and so on and so forth. I decided to make it a multi-part series only because it's such a large model. There's just no way that I can even you know, keeping it to a 2-hour video, even there's no way I'll be able to get everything in that I want to get in, to make it as detailed as I want to get it detailed in one episode. So I think we're going to keep it to like maybe 2 or 3 episodes, depending on how much we progress in each. So just so you guys have a better idea, this is the consistency of what I'm going to use for the wash here. And we want to apply it quite heavily, only because I want it to drown out quite a bit of this this brightness on the wood here. So normally I would just you know, apply a regular wash or a pre-made wash, but a lot of my stuff is still packed away. I've basically, which is actually a cool challenge too, I basically only have my Scale 75 set to work with and a couple of odds and ends as far as paints and whatnot, and I actually had to go and pick up quite a few supplies before I completely unpacked to get this project started. So I'm a little bit limited as to what I have to work with, but I'm also looking forward to that because I think it's going to be a nice little challenge to see what we come up with and see how it actually how it goes. So basically, I'm only working with the Scale Color paint set, plus a couple of random odds and sods, but for the majority of this, we're only going to be using a Scale Color paint set. So not to bore you guys for too long with this, I just kind of want to show you so I did base coat the model kind of completely. I mean, as you can see, there's still some black primer showing through here, but that's okay because this wash will cover up most of that. So I mean, we want to spread it out as much as possible here, obviously, and let's still keep a decent amount of it on the model itself. So I am going to continue doing this, and I will come back to you guys as soon as it's done. Okay, and we're back with a fully washed or glazed rather, wood pieces. So this one's still drying, obviously, but so I purposely left it kind of uneven in areas, like you can see. Hopefully you can see. This area here has a little less, as this here. Some areas have more, some have less. Purposely did that just to give it some kind of tonal variation on here, but I think this is going to add a nice warm, you know, purple reddish feel to the wood, kind of mahogany feel even, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do now is, so my original plan was to just go back over with the base coat. I think that's going to be too bright right off the bat. So what I'm going to do instead is, let me put my get all my crap together over here again. Limited space, so I'm kind of making do with what I have here. But so what I'm going to do is take a drop of black leather, and take a few drops of 2x brown, a good few drops, so this will darken it off, or darken it up quite a bit, and that's what we're looking for. Hopefully this works. I've never actually painted wood this way. In theory it should work, but we'll find out. Add a little bit more Dubai brown in here, or Dubai brown, a little bit of black leather rather. Let's see if that does the trick. Sorry, the camera's shaking. Yeah, there you go, that's not bad. It's a nice darker, well, you know what? Give me one more drop in here. One more big drop. Let's see what this ends up looking like. There we go. Essentially, if I really wanted to make this easier on myself, I could have base coated with black leather and then just worked my way up to Dubai brown, but I'm not one for making things easy on myself apparently, so yeah, this is a nice color to start with. So I'll clean the brush off, and let's do an obvious area here so you guys can see what this ends up looking like, and then I'll obviously continue doing this off camera, and then we'll come back to the final result like we usually do. So, and this is going to cover most of the wood. Now here's the trick with painting wood, especially wood with predefined wood grain in most areas. You kind of want to continue that pattern throughout the areas that aren't sculpted already, like these flat edges over here. So we're already going to start basically painting in a linear fashion on here, so that we can start defining the wood grain even on the areas that don't really have it sculpted in, or it's not as visible as it is in the other areas. And sorry about the camera shaking, it's just me shaking with my hands here. But this is essentially what I'm going to start doing here. And don't worry about it being, you know, thick or covering most of the black leather. It's pretty much what we're after. The black leather obviously remaining in the deepest crevices and so on and so forth, in the deepest recesses. Most of this is obviously going to be covered over, as you can see. And my one fear right now is that this wood is going to still end up being too bright and too vibrant for the theme of the figure, obviously, and for what we're going for. And I was thinking about that as I was applying the wash on here. I was a little afraid that it was going to be too bright. But if that's the case, then all we're going to do is then go back with a few dark washes at the very end to tone it down a bit, to tone it down even more, basically tone it down to what we're looking for. So now me doing this on camera, I obviously can't hold it close to me, or as close to me as I would like for comfort's sake. So, sorry if this is a little shaky. I'm trying to give you guys the best visibility I can on here, but... So this is with it mainly filled in and dried, obviously, so you can see the difference, you can see the tonal variation, but I think we're on the right track here. So I'm going to continue on all of this, and I'll come back when it's done. Alright guys, that was actually... I'm actually quite happy with this. So I don't know if you can see the subtle color variations in this, but again, I was a little afraid that it was going to be too bright, and obviously don't look in here because that's going to be covered by the casket. And this I'm leaving semi not painted because it's the bottom of the coach, so it's not going to be visible. But I was afraid that this was going to be too bright, but you know what? So far I'm really loving the look of this. It's kind of giving it a sickly look with the purple and the red hues in there in between the woods, kind of giving it the sickly look, which is awesome for you know, obviously for what we're painting here. And so this was just kind of a rough outline of all the wood with the half of the Dubai brown and half black leather. I mean, this part is especially, I really like the way this came out. Looks really good, really cool. Anyway, so that's that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be a little bit more precise. So all I'm going to do is take some Dubai brown, and I'm not going to mix it with anything. So this is going to be a pure Dubai brown layer. Now this is going to go on, it's not going to be edge highlights just yet, but close to it. So I'm not going to put that many layers of highlights on it, because I think the starker we end up making this wood, the better it's going to end up looking, actually. So what we're going to do is, let me grab something that I can actually hold on to and paint. There we go. So what we're going to do is literally hit the edges, and this is where we actually have to control it a bit better, because this will really start showing if we're too sloppy with it. And hit the wood grain, not the entirety of it, but maybe just the portions that's most raised and showing the most. So see what I'm doing here. It's just kind of going over stuff that's raised the most on here. And you want to make sure you have really decent lighting for this. Only because, again, some of this wood grain is actually really, the sculpt itself, the cast itself, some of this wood grain is actually really fine. And so you want to make sure you have really decent lighting for this so that you can see it as best as possible. But yeah, I'm really liking the way this is starting to look. It's starting to pop quite nicely. So I'm going to bring it up with this layer, and if it doesn't make it too bright, we're going to bring it up with one more layer afterwards. Really just edge highlighting at that point. And then we might go back over with a really light wash to bring it back down. So let me continue doing this, and I'll come back when I'm done. Alright guys, so we're actually making some decent progress. So here's the wood grain as it stands now, filled in with the Dubai brown. Now I'm leaving obviously this suspension here. I'm not giving it as much attention only because it's going to be hidden. So the one thing I'm going to do now is attach the this piece here to the main chassis here, and after that what we're going to do, so I didn't realize, but I am now certain that it is a little too stark, the color. So what we're going to do, after I manage to attach this properly, not to mention I'm not really going to need to get in here anymore. Give me 1 second, I'm going to do this off camera. After I manage to attach this properly, what we're going to do is give it a wash with some brown, some dark brown, to kind of tie it in together. And afterwards I'm going to go back over with more Dubai brown to accentuate the highlights some more. It's just going to be basically going back and forth. I don't think I'll do more than one wash. I don't think that'll be necessary. It's actually going to be a really light wash too. I don't want to lose very much of that really nice purple or red or whatever you want to call it, and that's underneath the wood. So it's going to be a very light wash, just enough to start tying all this in together and give us enough to then go back and highlight some more. So where's my wash? Oh, here it is. Army Painter Strong Tone, my go-to brown wash, obviously. Make sure that give that a couple of minutes to dry. So I'll get a bunch of this here. Now let's water it down. Let's water the crap out of it. Let's water down the crap out of it. So probably equal parts water to wash. That way it's not too stark, not too dark. There you go, that'll do the trick. And now, let's see how that goes on. This is easiest. See what this looks like. Yeah, perfect. See that? So we're still going to see some of that. We're still going to get some of that red or some of that purple. But we're also going to tie this together quite nicely, especially once it dries. So I'm going to go over the whole model like this, and I'll come back when I'm done. Alright guys, and we're back with the wash applied now. It's a little messy in some areas. I do have to touch it up, but hopefully you can see the added effect here. It kind of adds some nice depth to the model while still keeping that purple hue to the wood. Kind of gives it that, or retains that mahogany look to it. I'm really liking the way this is starting to come out. So what we're going to do now is take our Dubai brown again and basically start doing not only our edge highlights, but our thin highlights are basically starting to apply much thinner highlights on here. So water it down a little bit, one more drop. There we go. And let's go to town on this. So, 1 second, I'm going to get comfortable over here. So what I'm going to do here is start with the edges, obviously, And just these are really, really fine lines now, so we're not looking for anything too... too thick. I'm not looking for really thin, fine lines, so... Here, just be very careful down here, and then up here. And I'm going to go through the entire model like this. So this is where it gets a little bit more time consuming, obviously, but I think the results are worthwhile. Now I think we're going to do one more highlight after this one. One or two, maybe even, just kind of do the make it pop as much as possible, in other words. So again, I don't want to make it too bright, but at the same time I do want to make the contrast pop as much as possible. So kind of hoping to find a happy medium in between somewhere, but I'll see where we end up. So I think, yeah, I'm thinking probably, looking at it now, I'm thinking probably 2 more highlights after this. Much, much thinner, obviously. And as you can see, I mean, all I'm really doing is, this is where good lighting comes into play. And, you know, the way you hold the figure, so what I'm doing is I'm making sure I can see where the wood grain is as far as the actual sculpt goes. What direction, and just kind of give me a good idea of where the wood grain is sculpted in here. Because that allows me to place the highlights right on that grain and make that pop out a little bit more. So, and patience, obviously, just be patient. But yeah, just kind of follow the wood grain on here and kind of make it pop as much as possible. And am I happy with that? Yeah, I'm happy with that. Hold on, there's one more maybe. Maybe here I can make that pop a little bit more. And again, take your time, you know, observe the model or take a look at it from various angles. And make sure you're happy with it, because don't rush it, obviously. And yeah, just make sure you're happy with it. Just take your time, and you know, if you're not, then go back and fix it, and so on and so forth. Alright, yeah, so anyways, I am going to continue on with this, and I'll come back to show you guys the end result, and then for the next highlights, obviously, I'll come back and show you what I'm applying as well. Alright guys, so hopefully you can see this starting to come together now a little bit. I am quite now, obviously don't pay attention here, it's going to be covered with the casket, that's why I left it looking like crap, but I'm actually starting to like it quite a bit. I think the wood is getting just that right tint of color here, of the purple, to make it look kind of malign and dead even, but it's starting to pop all the same. So now that I've finished going over our first edge highlight with the Dubai brown, next color we're going to grab is going to be Sahara yellow, and start adding a very, very tiny amount. I gotta shake it up a little bit. Add a very small amount to our Dubai brown. That's more than enough. Get some water in there. Let's mix it up and see what we end up with. That's perfect. So these are going to be, yet again, much smaller edge highlights and much smaller highlights on the grain. So I did mention earlier that I plan on using basically 2 more highlights on top of the Dubai Brown. So this is going to be, again, not a complete overall highlight, but it's going to be one that's more encompassing. So basically, we'll come in and you know, not only do the edges, but we'll also do some of the more pronounced wood grains on here. While the final highlight, I'm only going to do basically as a main edge highlight. But this is pretty much as thin as you can get it as far as the lines go, as you can see, so it doesn't, so it's not too stark. Sorry if I'm not talking while I'm trying to do this. The way I have my camera set up isn't super comfortable, so I have to concentrate a little bit more to make sure I don't screw up. Usually when I paint, I'll hold my elbows right to my body to keep my hands steadier. Since my hands tend to shake quite a bit, so yeah, I'll hold my elbows and then kind of my wrists in towards my body so my hands don't shake as much. But I haven't figured out a decent enough camera setup yet, short of like attempting to mount a GoPro on my head to enable me to do that. So while I tape, I kind of try and make it as comfortable for myself as I can, but it's sometimes still have to pay a little closer attention to make sure I don't screw up too easily or too much, because it's not the most ideal position that I'm painting from, basically. So that's another reason that I just do short segments to give you guys an idea of what I'm going for, and then I finish everything off camera so I can actually hold the figure closer to my body and keep it more steady. I will finish this entire piece off though to show you guys exactly what I end up with. So again, keep spinning it around for your comfort, to make sure you're comfortable the way you're holding it. And it's, you know, basically the more comfortable you can make it for yourself, the better your end results are going to be. So this is what I'm going for here on this panel. Now let me continue on the other ones, and I'll come back when we're done again. Alright folks, and here it is, that next highlight. I'm actually really happy with it so far. So far so good. And we're going to do one more final one now. Again, I don't want to make this too bright, but I want it to pop just enough, so we are going to do a final highlight kind of in just like the most raised areas on the Sioux. Let's grab our handy dandy white palette here. Add another bit of Sahara yellow, and I do want this to be quite bright to be popping, so add another, that looks like another 3 drops maybe, regular drops. And this should be quite bright, is what we're going for. Yep. Now this is going to be, again, very positional. So mixing this up. Alright. So what do I mean by very positional? grab something that's, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So what I mean by very positional is very local even, so we're only hitting here, like the very tips of the edges on all of this. We're not going overboard, in other words. Just kind of hitting all the highest points on here. Because remember, this is going to be very bright, so you don't want it to be too stark, in other words. But at the same time, we do want it to pop enough to actually stand out and add to the contrast on these. Maybe add a couple of lines in the middle here. And just a quick one down here. And this is going to be our last highlight on this, because I don't want to make this too bright, and we've made it pop enough to where I'm happy with it. It gives us more than enough contrast, for my purposes at least. So I'll do this last panel with you guys here, and then I'll do the rest off camera. And again, don't be afraid to kind of move the figure around in your hands to make it as comfortable on yourselves as possible, obviously. Alright, let me finish this up and I'll be back. Alrighty folks, and it is done. Well, the wood is done. At least I'd like to call it done. Let me know what you think. I'm actually quite happy with how it came out, so I have to be honest, going into this, I expect it to be quite rusty, and I have been. The blending on the wood grain and then just my overall blending in general is not nearly as smooth as I would like it to be. That said, I haven't painted, literally haven't touched or picked up a paintbrush until now for 3 months, going on to 3 months now. So this is kind of just as much me getting back into it project as anything else, but I'm really happy with how this is coming out, and I mean it helps quite a bit that it's just such an awesome model. But yeah, really pleased with how this turned out. And yeah, I hope you guys like it as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below, obviously, and then feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, if you like this video. And I will leave you with one more question posed to you guys, is details such as, so I did bring up the fact that I wasn't sure whether I was going to paint these horses ethereal, or paint them, paint the bone structures and everything regular colors, as well as the cloth and all that stuff. So I did decide to paint them regular colors. Let me put this guy back on here. Okay. Top of that, also this, whatever this guy is, the driver, has a 2-piece robe on here, which one portion is going to be ethereal, and the other portion I'm also going to make a solid color. So the robes on the horses are going to be a solid color, while the horses underneath, the bone structure, are going to be ethereal. So here's my question to you. The robes, as far as the robes, the curtains, and his robe here, what is my primary color going to be? Should I use red, or should I use purple? I'm not decided. I'm leaning towards red, but I'm not 100% sure. So let me know what you guys think, and yeah, let me know what color you think would look best on this. Other than that, again, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked this. Comment, subscribe. Thank you.